Okay. I welcome you back to the Late Go podcast. This is the second half of our weekend podcast. And on the second half of the weekend podcast, we'll be discussing transfer updates, rumors, happenings, movement. We'll be discussing upcoming fixtures, key fixtures uh, over the midweek and weekend, and the Champions League generally. Just to go straight into what we're discussing, I want to start with Manchester City spending. Spendings are happening left, right, center. City drew at Brentford in the last match just to update us. And in that time, till now, they've completed the signing of 3 players. Omar Mamouche, Kushnov, the Uzbek, and the Brazilian. 2 centre backs and 1 striker. Yinka, are they buying the right players? And what do you feel about this flurry of activities from City?
Well, whether they're buying the right players or not, that one is left to be seen until we see them on the pitch. Sometimes this is not the first time that we've seen players perform really well at a club, and then they make a move to another club, and then the players, mess up. And sometimes it goes really well, the players really live up. A lot of factors come into play. Sometimes the players just do not, are just not able to cope with the weight of the jersey. Sometimes it's the pressure from the fans. Sometimes it's the pressure of the transfer fee. So whether this is a good move, or not, or these are good moves rather, or not, is left to be seen. In terms of whether City has looked well to address the issues in their squad, you know that I am a midfield, so when a team is having a problem, the first thing that I look in, is the midfield. And I've always been of the opinion that they need, a midfield rebound. So far, I have not seen any moves in midfield. They've gone for Victoria. They've gone for Kusanov, the long guy, and they've also gone for the Egyptian woman Mamouche. Mamouche did very well at
Oh, he's
Frankfurt.
Egyptian.
Yes, he's Egyptian. Yes,
Wow.
he did very well at Frankfurt. He's at the right age that you would expect, for a striker to make a move to a bigger team and then possibly start flourishing. He's 25 years old, but there's still, just like Zlatan said in one of his interviews, 50% of football is talent. The other 50% is the psychological, side. So whether he has that psychological awareness or psychological, psychology, so to speak, to cope with, moving to a big club is what is left to be seen. But in terms of talent, he's a very good player. He would have, to play back up to Haaland, at least for a while. But it also helps City in the sense that it allows them to give Haaland some rest when the need comes. Spending 80 million on a backup striker is, something that only City, you would expect only Manchester City to do, but that is what they've done. I still think that they need to address their midfield though. I read today that they're looking for midfielders. We're not sure who they
No
will be
names,
linked.
no names yet.
Yeah, no names yet.
The
So
only
we're not sure who they will
that
be
right
linked
now
to.
is
But
Cambiaso.
Cambiaso is not a
Fabianski
midfielder now.
No, I'm
is a
saying that's the
master
only
of
other player they have a strong link to right now.
he's the jack of all trades, master of none, rather. He plays on the left side, right side, midfield, right wing. So you would not necessarily call him a midfielder per se. So we'll see the names, the actual midfielders that they'll be linked to, and we hope that those players do well.
Okay. Ahmed, Erling Haaland just signed a 10 years deal with Manchester City. Already in the league, Chelsea have players on that kind of contract. I know they have Palmer on a contract to 2033. They have somebody like 2 players on
I
2031.
think it's Enzo Fernandez as well.
But Haaland signing for Man City for 10 years.
This is new.
Where do you place that?
Well, that is a bit out of character as far as Manchester City is concerned. We've not seen them pull such a deal before now. This is the first of its time for Manchester City. But it is Erling Haaland, someone that their relationship has been bearing fruits for both parties, both Haaland and Manchester City. They are doing great for each other. He's been consistent, banging in goals, left, right, and center. I would want to tie someone like that down to the future too. So But it's the big risk if you have to ask me because anything can happen. 10 years is too much. You could get injured.
It's a lot.
A lot can happen down the line, but Haaland is quality. You understand? You want to make sure you have every leverage you need over someone like that. So, and I guess that is the reason behind such a deal. Before he's getting paid too. That's have you seen that? I think his take home is now close to a million pounds per week, close
850.
to not. Yeah, it is very. I think it is more than 850, like I saw, but it is not above 1 million. So I would sign that if you ask me. But a lot can happen down the line. Let's see how it goes. I wish both sides the best.
Okay. Yinka, I'm back to you on Milan's issue. I don't want to ask Ahmed. Ahmed can go viral on me. Kyle Walker to Milan. Where is that coming from? What do you see there? Personally, I struggle to understand that kind of.
There's something there though, but let's see. Can't take
You know,
Ahmed, calm down. Ahmed, calm down.
I was thinking today that Kyle Walker to Milan, if that deal eventually goes through, would it really work out for Milan? But one thing that I would first like to point out is that the move alone shows that Milan sort of admits that they messed up, upgrading right back position over the summer. Because if you've gone and said we are upgrading Calabria, you brought in Emerson Royal, and then 6 months later you are going for another another right back rather for a 6 months deal. It just screams, oh, we're actually admitting that we messed up. In terms of whether he would fit in, I think Kyle Walker, and this is not to say that Serie A is not of a good level, for the level that we are in Serie A, I think Kyle Walker should be able to do well. Naturally, fast players, Premier League players, when they come in, they're able to, because of the pace at which they are used to, and because the Serie A plays at a much more slower pace compared to the Premier League, they're able to just, fit in seamlessly. But the tactical
With their
side is not what.
fitness.
Yeah, the tactical side is what I'm not particularly sure of. This is a player that is used to dominating teams over the years. He was part of Guardiola's team that dominated the Premier League for 4 years. He was always camping players in their box for most of the games. Now he's coming to a Milan side where he might need to do a bit of defending.
Where
A
in
Sergio
the camp.
Conceição, that prefers to play on the counter. So you need that defensive, know-how. So how that works out, is still left to be seen. But in terms of overall quality, you would expect that it would be an upgrade on Emerson Royal place.
Well, we hope is an upgrade on Emerson. Yeah, we pray is an upgrade because we definitely
That to
need
add
an
to
upgrade.
that.
You can add, my lord.
All right. Contrary to public opinion, just like Zlatan said earlier in his interview, yes, we are already in a messy situation. We are piling up right backs, but the deed has been done. The mistake has been made. We have Masseria and Calabria who are two average right backs. So you don't say no to a Kyle Walker who is coming for, as far as reports is concerned, almost free, and he's actually willing to lower his wage. So he's someone who can actually add to our dressing room as far as I'm concerned with his championship mentality, with his winning mentality. We had a similar situation when we signed Giroud and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, yes, who were actually older than Kyle Walker is right now. So I think he's someone who can bring in new mentality, a winning mentality to the dressing room. And aside that, the quality on the pitch is not lacking. If you are to ask me, I'm not saying he's someone you should rely on for 3-4 years down the line because he's already 34. But in the short run, I believe he should be able to add to our game. And you can't tell me he's not tested as far as defending is concerned. He's one of those who has to always save Manchester City in counter situations because they are used to ultra attacking, and he's usually the one who comes back to save the day when the last ditch tackle needs to be made. Yeah, he's been
Is
found in
he
such.
still that fast?
He's still fast. Kyle Walker is still very
Well,
fast. He's still very
Kyle
fast.
Walker's fast is very fast for Syria.
I was going to add that. For Serie A, yes.
To add to that, whatever he's bringing to dressing room is very much in there as at this point. We need someone to give our boys a wake up call. So I think he's welcome, but help is needed somewhere else other than right back. We need midfield addition. We need a clinical striker if there is that possibility. There is a lot
In
that's needed in
January.
Milan.
No, forget about that one.
There is a lot that's needed in Milan. But let's move on.
Jager, on Inter's front, any incoming players? Do you expect any incoming players?
We're reading reports about a Sucic guy. I think he's from Dinamo Zagreb. I'm not sure if it's coming immediately.
He's going on loan again.
Yeah, there are reports that he will be left at Dinamo for another 6 months. So far, I do not think Inter are prepared to make moves to the actual first team, except for if Buchanan leaves, because we're hearing reports that Sergeant Buchanan might actually leave for some game time. If he leaves, yes, they would most likely bring in someone to replace him. I'm reading that it could be a central back, not a wing back like Buchanan, because we're actually short in defense. I screamed the entirety of last summer that we should let Achebi go, but people said I was being negative. But now we're actually suffering for
He's
keeping
been out
Achebi.
for
The
months.
injuries are too much. And I'm saying it now again. Once it's summer, we need to start looking for possible buyers for Hakan Çalhanoğlu as well. His injuries are beginning to pile up. And I think that if we keep him beyond this summer, not only will he miss more games, he will also, we would also struggle to eventually sell him or offload him when we eventually want to sell him. So it's better to just, cut your losses and sorry.
Before you have a Benassi situation in your hands,
Exactly. I don't understand how fans get attached to players. You are actually supporting the club and not the players. The players are there to serve to do their jobs and leave. If a player is not in the best position to carry out his job, then you need to find a way to cut ties. And I do not see a problem with that. The only part where it becomes a problem is where the people that have been tasked with the job of replacing such players now end up doing a terrible job. If not, I don't see why we would have a Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and I'm just using this as an example. And then you are selling Hakan and then bringing in, say, a Rodri, for example. I'm just using. Why would I complain about that? Or people, when you say you want to sell Hakan, people suddenly start shouting, "Oh, you're selling Hakan, who is going to replace him?" I mean, we had Brozovic before Hakan came in, and people thought
Sure.
that we would not be able to replace Brozovic, and then we go Hakan. So players can always be replaced. You're not the only player that plays a
Yeah.
particular role or plays it as you seem to play, so to speak.
Kvaratskhelia to PSG.
yeah, I can understand the past years. Because for a team like Inter, who understand the financial situation right now, money is not something you can throw around freely. In a Man City, for example, they can afford to let go of Haaland, and you are rest assured that they would spend times to whatever they let Haaland go for to get someone new. In a Inter
But
situation, you are very sure that funds is limited. So
Well,
Çalhanoğlu came
we
for
had
free.
we had this
You
we
don't
had this
don't
financial
have such
situation
situations
when we
present itself.
but we had the same financial situation when Akan became registered. Brozovic
yeah,
left, we were broke. We brought in Akan for free. So basically, the point that I'm trying to make is the people responsible for that job just have to do a good job, knowing that you have
yeah,
parameters in place. You do
Yeah,
not
and
have
I
money, so
trust
you have
Inter
to start
directors.
searching. You have to
you're
start
very
I trust
searching for
Inter
players that
directors.
you either get on a cheap or players that you get for free. We got Akan for free. The coach worked his magic on him, and look at what he is today. Who says he cannot do it
Yeah,
with another player?
yeah, I trust Inter directors. If it comes to that, they are
I'm
arguably
just
the
to add,
best
I'm
in
actually
turning
beginning
in
to
players.
think. Sorry to cut you short. Just to add, I'm actually beginning to think that the plan may be to actually put Zielinski in that role, because this sushi guy, I thought he was a register, but I've had a proper look at him. He looks more of a Barella type of player. So if you are getting someone to maybe deputize
You
Barella, it
remember,
means that you want to move
last week?
Zielinski.
Last week I asked you about Zelensky at register. It's a possibility.
Yeah, it's
It can
actually
happen.
possible. No one thought Akan
It
could be
can happen.
registered. well. But look at him now.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, on the transfer front, Kvaratskhelia to PSG. That's that marriage with Napoli just snapped. Nobody saw that. That transfer happened overnight, and before you know it, Kvaratskhelia is in PSG. The man has moved from 1.8 million a year to 11 million. First of all, Inter who pays a Scudetto winning MVP 1.8 million. That is some modernized slavery behavior.
That is not even
But
the painful part. The painful part is if while earning 1.8 million, if he was one of the top paid in the team, you would understand the team is
Exactly.
limited on funds. But he's not top
is
paid
the 18th
as much
is
as
the
earning is
18th
concerned.
paid
That is criminal.
is the 18th best paid
You don't do
player
that.
in the Napoli squad. Now that is half of the story. The other half of the story is that Napoli are now interested in Garnacho. I don't understand that replacement pattern.
I've never been a fan of Garnacho. People that know me know that I've always said that it's not Man United level. But obviously, Man United, and I'm talking about the size of the clubs now, not in terms of their performance now. In terms of size, in terms of history, Man United and Napoli are not on the same level. Man United are way bigger. So Garnacho at a club like Napoli might actually work, especially when you consider the fact that, according to reports, Conte actually requested for him. And one thing that I know with Antonio Conte, knowing that he has coached my club for 2 years, that when he wants a player,
He leaves, then that's the Conte problem. He wants what everybody doesn't want. Then whenever he leaves, he has
exactly.
stuck with those players.
But the thing is, when he asks for those players, he's actually able to get the best out of them. The problem is what happens when Conte leaves. He leaves you with a lot of players that other coaches might not be able to use. Only Conte can use. So you're not left with misfit. So that's the problem that you might have. But we'll see how it goes. Personally, I hope he joins because I don't see what he adds. But obviously, with Conte, you know that he has a special plan for it.
There's a player I want us to talk about in the midst of this Kvaratskhelia Garnacho, and that is Ademola Lookman. Initially, personally, I would have primed him for a move to PSG. Kvaratskhelia has gone to PSG. That has unsettled the triangle. Where do you see Ademola Lookman in the summer?
Well, we cannot see the future, so we do not know. The move that Kvaratskhelia actually made was actually meant for Lookman last summer. If I remember very well, I think he went on a protest saying that he wanted to leave Atalanta. There was a bit of a problem between him and the Atalanta management. But somehow, they convinced him to stay. He's gone on to win African Player of the Year. So I think that as far as, mentally and his career is concerned, he's in a good space, so to speak. As players that have ambitions, we always want to take that, that step up. He's at an Atalanta team that does not really have big chances of competing for titles. They did win the Europa League last season, which is good, but you cannot count on them to win, titles on a consistent basis. And given the talent that Lookman has, he would obviously want to play, for a team that gives him a very good chance of winning titles. Now, I do not think that PSG will come for him again because it looks like they are covered in that room. They have Bakola and now Kvaratskhelia. Are there other teams that might come for him? Maybe Arsenal, because I think that they are short on the left wing. I do not think that Martinelli is good enough.
Or Trossard.
Can Lookman go there? Trossard, I think that Lookman is better than Trossard as well.
Yeah,
Can Lookman go there and play for a first team shirt? Yes. But can Arsenal also win trophies on a consistent basis? The question is at the moment, no. So what are the other options that he has? It doesn't look like he's got more options. But obviously the transfer window is always,
might be interested.
well, we'll see because Doku has not really lived up to expectation. So we don't know. Like I said, the transfer window is always evolving. So what happens in summer by July ending or August? No, by June ending, July beginning, we should have a clear idea of which players will move because sometimes it always has a domino effect. One player moves, and then you just suddenly see other players, getting in position to also make moves. So we'll see what happens.
Well, That has been a good one on the transfer front. And we are going straight into the Champions League. And oh boy, we finished the Champions League. The Champions League is back midweek. And the difference between the top teams and the teams between 9th to 12th is just 1 point. Now, there are two key matches in this upcoming match day, and that is Atletico Madrid hosting Leverkusen, and we have PSG hosting Manchester City. PSG is on 7 points. They are completely out of the qualification cadre. And you have Manchester City on 8 points. They are barely, I think they are 22nd or 23rd on the table. Yinka, PSG, Man City, Ahmed, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen. Let me start with Yinka.
So PSG Man City, that's a game that both teams actually have to win, because a loss or a draw for PSG might actually mean that their chances of qualifying, not even in the top 8, qualifying as one for one of the playoff spots, reduces drastically. For Man City, if they lose that match, they are currently hanging by a thread. I'm just looking at the table now. They are currently 22nd with 9 points. So automatically, if PSG win that game, PSG goes above them. And Man City would have to depend on other games that go on, during the match day to know whether they would actually remain in the top 24, or they would also, they might actually replace PSG outside the top 24. So it's a game that both teams have to win. Considering the fact that PSG will be playing at home, if I'm not mistaken, yes, PSG will be playing at home. I'm also considering the fact that Man City are not particularly in a good moment right now. I would give PSG a slight advantage. PSG seem to be understanding what Enrique wants from them. That's the PSG team. They seem to be understanding what Enrique wants from them. They are not quite there yet, but there's this gradual understanding with the way they play, the kind of football that Enrique wants to play. And also there isn't this pressure of having star players in the team. In the past, PSG has always focused on this so-called galactical policy. I wouldn't liken it to Real Madrid's own, but they always went for, players that are the main of football. They had Messi, Neymar, and the likes. So that's added a bit of extra pressure. But with the kind of squad that they have now, the kind of players that they have now, they can actually play without pressure, without the pressure of, without the pressure of expectation, knowing that, okay, people always expect them to win. They can actually go out and possibly get a result. Personally, I think it would end in a 2-2 draw. And I think that both teams might end up keeping their spot that match day. I'm not quite sure which teams are above PSG at the moment. I think it's Dinamo, Zagreb, and PSG. Maybe if those teams lose, PSG might sneak into top 24. But Man City really need that game. So, and because they are not in form, I do not see them winning, but I think they will do enough to get a draw. A 2-2 draw is what I'm predicting.
Okay, Yinka, still on PSG Man City. Man City will end the campaign at home to Club Brugge. PSG will end the campaign away at Stuttgart. Stuttgart are flying currently in Bundesliga. Do you see, is there a possibility that qualification might extend beyond round 7 to the last day of the Champions League group stage?
Well, the beauty of this new format in the Champions League is that is exactly what you're going to get. It would almost be like the final day drama that we usually have in most of the league, where you are waiting for one team to win and then you are putting your eyes on, you're keeping your mind on results in another venue. So I expect that to be the case this season as well. For PSG Stuttgart, as well as they're doing in the league, are actually struggling in the Champions League as well. So they actually also need to put wins on the table. That would also be, like I said, it's the last game of the round, so to speak, and they might also need to win that game. So that might actually be
Yes.
one of the games of that round. Club Brugge might also need to win because they are still on 10 points, and anything can happen, between now and the last match day. So PSG are actually facing two teams that absolutely need to win their games or cannot afford to lose their games. PSG would have to bring 200 or 300% performance if they want to stand any chance of qualifying to the next round.
Ahmed, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, defense versus attack. America versus ISIS, Taliban versus Israel,
Well,
whatever name you want to call it. Those two teams are what and opposite.
that is one stereotype that's not very accurate recently. Follow Atletico Madrid plainly. They don't really defend as much as people think they do. Though it is not unusual for Diego Simeone team to employ a deep defense. But talking about this particular fixture, it is one fixture you can't predict where it's going to go. Reason being that been quite inconsistent as far as the Champions League is concerned. They started their campaign poorly. I can't, sorry, my memory fails me at this point, but I remember they lost in quite embarrassing fashion to Benfica by 4 goals to 1, if I'm not mistaken. But recently they picked up and made some wins you don't expect them to win. They won away to PSG by 2 goals to 1. They won some games recently in the Champions League, which actually brought them back to reckoning. So this is one game they would not want to lose. They are at home to high-flying Leverkusen. And their last game is away to Salzburg. Yeah, Salzburg are struggling too, but it is an away tie. So you would not want to lose your last game at home. So I believe they would give their all. And at the same time, Leverkusen, yeah, good attacking side. They started the season poorly in the league, and more recently they've picked up their pace poorly by the standards they've actually created for themselves based on last season's performance. So based on those premises, I believe this game is one game that neither side would want to lose. So I see it ending as a stalemate. And Leverkusen has a easier final fixture against Sparta Praha. So they could get a little relaxed and lethargic. And considering the fact that Atletico Madrid lost today away to Leganes, it's not for poor performance, but there are games like that. They had a whole lot of chances towards the end to actually get back in the game. Griezmann lost a penalty kick exactly on the 90th minute. So with such performance that they had, they wouldn't want to lose back-to-back games. So I believe they would put up a fight and they would not want to lose that game to Liverpool. So I see that ending on a stalemate.
Well, the beauty of this group phase Champions League is that I'm looking at the table now, and mathematically, I think only Liverpool is guaranteed a spot in the top 8. They are on 18 points. The next club behind Liverpool is Barcelona on 15 points. Barcelona still have to play Atalanta. I don't know who their last match is. I think Atalanta is the last match. I don't know who they are playing midweek. But the Champions League table is... They're playing Benfica. Benfica is another team that can mess you up. They probably don't need that points for anything, but they can mess you up. The point I'm trying to make is that this Champions League table is one to keep an eye on. The positions are swapping like dollar-naira exchange rate. And you can be Milan is 12th with 12 points. Atletico Madrid 11th with 12 points. Bayern 10th with 12 points. Dortmund 9th with 12 points. Lille 8th with 13 points. And you snooze, you lose. That's just the summary of the table.
I mean, you could have any of the teams from 9th to 14th, to 17th, actually replace all of the teams from 3rd to 8th, depending on how the results go. Because you have just 3 points between Feyenoord in 18th just 3 points between Feyenoord in 18th and Arsenal in 3rd. So anything can happen depending on our results.
That's an interesting one. Ahmed, hope your Milan will qualify.
Well, they have fixtures in their favor in terms of they face their tough oppositions, and now they have easier games on paper. So if they don't
Will you
mess
qualify?
up, yeah, definitely Milan will qualify. The question is, will they take one of the automatic spots? That is the question. So I believe they should do enough to keep those positions.
Speaking of automatic slot, let me tell you something. This Champions League I'm looking at, wherever you finish, you might end up with your worst enemy.
And
Exactly.
So
that
I
Milan,
think
those
everybody should
competing with
focus
Milan
on
will cancel
qualifying
each other
first.
out. Those teams competing with Milan will cancel. We have direct ties between Atletico Madrid and Leverkusen. You
There's
understand?
no advantage. There's no really
No, no,
advantage. That's
no,
what I'm
no.
trying
I,
to
I
tell
think
you.
I think what Samson is saying is that you could end up finishing in top eight, and then when you get to the second round, you would
They will give
actually
you
wish that you
Madrid.
finished
Yeah,
in
definitely.
ninth.
That's how the Champions League works. 2 years ago, Milan made it to the semi-final. Wow, they had a very fair draw. So it happens like that. You can end up topping your group. Then the very next round, they
Look
give you
at that.
someone you don't
Look
want to
at
see.
Aston Villa, for instance. Look at Aston Villa. Let's assume Aston Villa struggle and qualify, only to end up with Real Madrid or Barcelona. So you can see that there's really no advantage, but hopefully the big teams qualify, and
Well,
whichever big team is going in.
the only advantage that it has is that you get to play one less game or two less games, so that allows you rest. Other than that, in terms of the teams that you'd miss, you do not really have an advantage first.
Well, enough said on the Champions League. We look forward to the midweek matches, and on the next episode, we'll be discussing the outcomes of those matches. We'll see uh, whose predictions have been correct. PSG Man City Yinka has predicted a 2-2 draw. That's a bold prediction. While Ahmed has also predicted a stalemate between Leverkusen and Real Madrid. As for upcoming fixtures, uh, there are no significant ties in the leagues coming up in the weekend. One particular fixture is that we should keep an eye on is Napoli Juve. Napoli hosting Juve. Juve has ended their runs of draws. They've beaten Milan. They will be going into that match brewing confidence. Napoli will also have enjoyed a week's rest. Conte, 1 week rest. There's problem. So that is a very significant fixture to look at. Yinka, I know you do not want a Napoli win in that match.
Obviously.
What can you tell us about that fixture?
So just before I address that, I must also add that Man City and Chelsea will also be facing next week. And
Interesting.
yes, and with regards to top four positions in Serie A, there's also Lazio versus Fiorentina, which I think will be very, very interesting. So, but with regards to Napoli and Juve, I think they played the first leg ended in a draw, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a goalless draw or a 1-1 draw at the Juventus Stadium. They'll be playing the second leg at Napoli. Juventus have not really found it easy on their trips to Napoli recently. I know that in the past, they always did very well. But if I remember very well, over the last 2-3 seasons, they've struggled on their trip to Naples. Like we already know, Conte is a master of one game per week seasons, if I'm allowed to put it that way. And I think that his players will be well rested.
Maximum rest.
Yeah, exactly. Juventus will be playing Champions League this season, and you would not necessarily say that the game that they'll be playing in Champions League is not a must-win game, because at this stage of the Champions League, if you snooze, you lose. So you want to win your game. So I think that Juventus might go into that game probably a bit, fatigued compared to Napoli. I'm also considering the fact that Juventus and Napoli are actually in different form at the moment, and because of the desire, Conte factor, you would obviously give Napoli the upper hand. But Juventus, on the other hand, are currently unbeaten, and that is one thing that
Okay,
in that is one thing that I've noticed in their game, that they are actually striving to protect. Even if we're not going to lose, even if we're not going to win, we must not lose. I think that that's also a factor. But if I was to predict a winner in that game, I would say Napoli. Um, just because I think that they are playing at home. I think that they are much more rested. And I think that the game just sets up perfectly for Juve's first loss of the season. So
It
that's the way.
aligns. It's a perfect story.
First big loss of the season.
Yes, the first league loss of the season, obviously. Losing to Conte, who used to be a former coach, you losing to Napoli, who is considered a rival, so to speak, not quite a rival like Juventus and AC Milan, but in recent times, Napoli has, always put themselves up there to try to challenge and put themselves among the big boys. So losing, and then the fact that they're playing at home, lack of rest, I think that it sets up well for a Napoli win. I hope that Napoli do not win. I'm hoping for a draw, but I'm seeing a 2-1 win for Napoli, to be very honest.
Okay, that is well said. Manchester City will be going away to Ipswich tomorrow. Chelsea will be hosting Wolves. We presume for the good of both of them, they win both matches. They win those matches. Next week, Chelsea travel to Etihad. Do you see that match turning out to be a turnaround for City? Because City are not back.
Both teams actually need a turnaround. Sorry for cutting.
Both
Because
sides,
Chelsea are
exactly.
actually not in form again.
Both sides miss.
I think
Both
Chelsea
sides
are
miss.
Chelsea are on. Chelsea have not won any match in 5.
Yes,
They've
no win in
drawn
5
3. They've
and
drawn
lost 2.
3. They've lost 2. So Ahmed,
They are not in the title contention.
He
they are
spoke it into
properly not in
existence.
the title.
It's trying to prove that
They are properly not in the title contention.
So, like you would say, that statement is something I think that has hurt them mentally. Because as much as Man City are struggling, they've never for once said they are not going for the title, despite the fact that they've been finding it really tough. So they still have that belief that the title is their birthright and do everything they can to get back in the race. But for Chelsea, even when they were doing very well, their coach had to come out to say they are not in title contention. So I think that would also come to play on the field of play that the Man City would definitely want it more. They are at home. They have some plethora of new signings to show. And at the same time, we could see Guardiola's passion in their last game against Brentford. He had this episode with his backup goalkeeper Ortega after the end of the game. Guardiola is always like that. He wants to win all the time. And the fashion in which they dropped points in that game, they were ahead by 2 goals, and Brentford would always stay with white. It was nothing new or unexpected actually. So I believe Man City would want the game more. They have the Etihad support to also bank on. So they would nick that game by.
A City win. Okay, Yinka, I want to put you on the spot now. I want to paint a scenario for you. I'm looking at the table now, and Manchester City are 15 points behind Liverpool. Now, 15 points is 5 losses. This is Manchester City. I'm not sure any team has come back from 15-point deficit to win the league. But this is Manchester City.
This late into the season.
4 titles in a row. We've seen them do 15 matches, 15 wins in a bounce. Just painting a scenario. 17 more matches to go. There are 2 conditions to that scenario now. Do you see Liverpool losing 5 matches? And do you think City can win 17 matches in a row?
Right. So, first thing I'm going to say is sort of counter to what Ahmed said earlier. After Manchester City's last game against, I think it was Brentford, Phil Foden was asked if he believes that they are still in the title race. And he plainly said this, that we do not believe that we're in the title race anymore. Of course, that could be his opinion. But in his own words, he said, we are not stupid. That is what he said. We're not stupid. I think, it's over. But to answer your question, the first part of the question is Liverpool cannot lose 5 games in a row, 4 games, is it 5 or 4? Can they lose
5.
5 in 17? Yes, it's possible. This is football. We've seen what's happened. Can they lose 5 in 17? Do I think they will lose 5 in 17? No. Can they lose 5 in the row? And this Man City wins 17 in a
All
row.
17.
This Man City cannot win 5 in a row. This Man City cannot win 5 in a row right now. So I do not see any scenario where it happens that Man City pulls off a miraculous comeback and then we get to talk about it for many years and tell our kids about it. It's never gonna happen. Just forget about it.
I should get that idea.
Just forget about it. City is done this season. I think that going by their transfer dealings, they are already planning towards next season. Even though I think that a lot of their planning also has to do with the fact that they are expecting very tough sanctions due to their financial issues, the financial issues that they have with the league.
I think I have a career in movie writing. I'm
Senior
I'm
script
putting some
writing.
scripts.
Senior script
Well,
writing.
speaking of overall, I think City do need an overall. And if you look at that City squad, I know a lot of people say the players are not bad, but then if you look at that squad, there are some bad players in that squad. You just there's really there's uh Doku is neither here nor there.
Well, these players are not bad players. Are they great players? No. But they are not bad. They are not bad. They are not players that you would consider bad players. But
In
they are
fact,
not great
Grealish
players.
is bad.
Now, what I think Grealish was a very good player for Aston Villa. You might say he did not live up
Some
to,
point for Man City too.
yes, you might say he did not live up to expectation that he did not live up to what you would expect a player, from Man City to do. But Grealish is not a bad player. Now, I want to point out something. I used to say in the past that over time, I think Manchester City got cocky. That they did not notice that their team, especially in midfield, was declining. Whether it's the age that you want to look at, whether it's the quality that they watered down. I mean, this is a team that used to have David Silva, Fernandinho. I can't remember the players that they have. No, I'm even talking about midfield now. They had Fernandinho, Manchester City, David Silva, Ilkay Gundogan,
Injury
Bernardo
masked a
Silva.
lot of their deficiencies. Injury
Exactly.
exposed a lot.
But they've actually watered down that midfield and some other parts of the squad to a very large extent. And I think it's because they were always winning the league. They were always thinking, where's the competition going to come from? Also, because I think that because of their issues with the league, they may be paying attention to the financial side much more than they would normally do, which is why they did not really address some of these issues in the summer that has just gone. And there's also one thing that I want to point out. I think it was Andrea Agnelli, Juve's former president, that mentioned that when after Juventus won the league for the 7th time or 8th time in a row, and they thought, what can we do to motivate these players to want to keep winning this league? Two options came to mind. We either go to our rival, I think it was the 5th time in a row, I can't remember. We either go to our rival and pick their best player and let them know that, yes, we own this league, which was what informed, I think, the season that they got
Igwe,
Higuain from Napoli, or the season that they got Pjanic from Roma, because at that time, the Milan teams were not particularly, doing well. So their rivals at that point were Napoli and Roma.
and Roma.
Yeah, they went there and took their best players to sort of show them that you guys are not at our level. And that sort of motivated the rest of the squad to think, oh man, we're actually better than all of these other teams in the squad. I think down the line again, something similar happened. And then they thought, okay, what can we do now? They went and then they got Ronaldo. Because that raises the level of motivation in the squad, that raises the level of quality, that puts fear in your opponents. I think that Man City have not done any of these things. They got,
Only none.
which is why I said that they got cocky. They got cocky that we'll keep winning this thing. Although I also think that the financial issues that they have had the role to play in some of their decisions. But now it looks like they just don't give a damn anymore. What's going to happen is going to happen. You're going to punish us anyway. So we're going to go into that market, spend 300 million, spend 200 million, get the players that we want to get, and then come in front of you to take our punishment like like a man. So I think that that's what they are doing now by going into the market, planning for next season, and then hoping for the best as far as that punishment is concerned, because they will definitely get punished, in my opinion.
But you
Yeah.
can the Juve situation is not the same as Man City in terms of if you consider that back then, Juve, as far as finances is concerned, they are head and shoulders above every other person in the league. They had their own stadium. They were doing their thing, so they could afford to bully Roma or Napoli into taking their biggest players. Can you tell me Man City would walk into a Liverpool and pick their best player? No, it
Yes,
is very hard.
yes.
Okay, so show them.
A psychological move.
Can you give us an example of such move in a Man City situation?
You could go,
These are
for example, if they are taking Harry Kane before he left this team, have a Haaland and a Kane. Have a Haaland and a Kane in that team. People would fear them even up until today. They wouldn't have needed to go for Mamouche. If, for example, they had gone to a Man City and said, okay, what player can we take? Sorry, not Man City, to Real Madrid and said, what player can we take from this squad? Take one of Real Madrid's players. Take one of Bayern's best players, knowing that we cannot actually get, players in our league because obviously our rivals will not want to strengthen us. It would have sent a message. So obviously you have so many rich teams in the Premier League, even though I still think that Man City are slightly above them in terms of finances. But you have so many rich teams in the Premier League, you cannot necessarily bully all of those teams. Or you can sort of give a show of strength by saying, okay, I can go to Real Madrid and maybe lobby a Chouameni, for example, or Rodrigo, for example, just that kind of message. But look at their transfers over the last 2 seasons. I do not think since they got Haaland, I don't think they've made any. And even Haaland was not part. Haaland was coming from a team that you would consider on a lower level, not in terms of tradition, obviously, but in terms of finances, in terms of what they are doing at the moment, that you consider on a lower level to Man City. It was an upgrade for Haaland himself. But you're going to a club where you're getting a player on your level and you're telling everybody that this is who we want and we're coming to win that league. I think they should have
Let
gone
me
for
remind you.
that time.
Let me remind you of a similar move when City took Tevez from United. That was
Exactly.
that was peak.
That's also
That was peak rivalry period.
that was also Manchester United did it with Arsenal with Van Persie. Teams do it a lot. No? Teams do it a lot just to sort of show that we are your bosses.
Yes, it's a psychological move, and I
that
think
psychology would keep playing on the rival's head and thinking, man, these guys are here again. So before you even get on the pitch with them, you're already thinking, man, these guys, how are we going to do it? Mentally, they're defeated, except for 1 or 2 times where, some clubs will want to do stronger and say, we're not going to agree to it. But over 38 games, you have maybe 30 games where the teams that you're playing are already saying, man, these guys are going to beat us. And I think it's very important because, like I always say, there's one thing to have talent, but the psychological, aspect in football is also very, very important. And I don't think that people pay attention.
Look at the KDB situation now. They are needing a KDB replacement. Imagine them going to Manchester United and messing with Bruno Fernandes. Even if the transfer does not pull through, but at least make a statement. Let them know that you can come at any time. And I agree with you on the psychological warfare that they were supposed to engage in. Anyways, we have about 20 minutes left, and these 20 minutes, I want us to exhaust it, discussing. We will not be able to finish the topic tonight. I just want us to touch on it. On later episodes, we will bring it up again with a wider panel and discuss. And the topic is the future of football. Where do we see football going? Recently, we've heard comments like footballers saying that the game is now very robotic. There are too many instructions. And an analogy I want to make is when I was growing up, there was FIFA and there was PES. I hated playing FIFA. And the reason why I hated playing FIFA was because there were too many controls. You needed to do a combination, do this. While in PES, you just let your L1, your direction, bend, shoot, pass, and basic stuff. But now football is so robotic, so many instructions, do this, turn like this, move like this. Talent is, the entertainment is not there. We are not saying flair. Flair is the word I'm looking for. We are not saying flair. Ika, what do you think is responsible for this?
I don't want to blame Pep Guardiola, but I'm inclined to to point at it. I wouldn't say it takes all of the blame, but I think that because of the massive success that he achieved with his system and always wanting players to play in a specific way, people felt inclined to copy that system. But what people have failed to realize that for you to be Pep Guardiola, you need the kind of backing that Pep Guardiola also has. I was watching a game earlier this season. I think it was between Southampton and Liverpool. And I saw the Southampton keeper trying to pass out of the defense when he was caged by four Liverpool players or thereabout.
The
And
funny
Maybe
thing
he
is,
did
passed the
you
ball.
they keep making mistakes and they don't learn from. They made that same error twice before they conceded from that same situation.
I
And he
miss
passed the
Tony
ball
Pulis.
directly to the Liverpool player. I can't remember the Liverpool player that he passed the ball to. He passed the ball directly to a Liverpool player and that led to him. And I remember being so livid, so angry, and thinking, what happened to playing to your strength? What happened to looking at your team or your squad and thinking, okay, these players don't have the ability to play out of the back. We can move it to our main striker, that's our top target man. He can head it down for a midfielder that might actually be technically good, who can then set up a winger, they can cross. There are different ways that you can go about it. But because of this obsession to play the Guardiola way, and I know that Guardiola also, mirrored his game, you know, he also tailored his game to follow some of the other legends in the game, like Johan Cruyff and the likes. But I'm speaking about modern game now. The person that I can point to, that I can immediately point to, that I will say is responsible
The,
for this, would be Pep
the chief
Guardiola.
culprit.
And I'm not saying this as some sort of smear on his name or to say that he did something bad. He did really well with the system. He achieved a lot of great things with the system. In fact, I would say that Pep Guardiola, to an extent, has even watered out the system since he left Barcelona. His teams, since he left Barcelona, his Bayern Munich team, his Man City team, have not necessarily played like that Barcelona team that we saw in 2009,
Because they lack the
2010, and
Messi
like
factor.
Manchester City versus
apart from the
Atletico
Messi factor,
Madrid.
they even like the Xavi, Iniesta. They had players that were born for that system. Exactly. Exactly. So they had the players that were born for that system. And I think that people just looked at the success. And I think that coaches do this a lot. When Antonio Conte came to the Premier League and played a three-man defense, and people saw that it was, really working for him. You saw a lot of coaches in Premier League, even though they didn't really have an idea of how the system works, they were also trying to copy him. So coaches are not, trying. Whereas in the past, we enjoyed football more and not the tactical side more. And I'm not saying the tactical side is bad. I just think that currently it's killing the natural talent. It's not necessarily killing it, but it's not allowing the players to show themselves that much. It's not, you wouldn't have a JJ Okocha in today's game, as far as I'm concerned. Because before he dribbles the first person, dribbles the second person, the coach would have shouted at him and said, no, you're supposed to make a pass and draw a triangle with some of your passes there. Which is particularly honest. Some of us started following football because we enjoyed some of the skills that this player has been doing. And
Yeah.
that style of football was
The
actually
snake,
delivering
the snake
results.
bite, the
Exactly.
nutmeg.
And
Well,
one disadvantage that I think he has is that if you have the money to then get the players, it then makes football a bit one-sided in the sense that it is the players that have money to get specific type of players that can play this style, where everybody in football now wants to play that style, but you do not have the money or the players to play.
okay. Probably on our next episode, we are going to bring data and we'll see, we'll compare the success between the Guardiola style and the other style, because I want to put every other style in the other side of the discussion. Now, Ahmed, I want to I want to talk about a stereotype that you mentioned earlier. And the stereotype is that defensive football is dirty football, or defensive football is demonic football, as some people is satanic football, as some people will have it. Do you also share that opinion, or do you believe the goal is to win, regardless of how you do it?
That is a very good and at the same time very tough question. But there are many ways to it. In fact, to score a goal in football, there are many ways to go about it. get a crossing and not it, it's a goal. You play a shot from
Same.
25 yards out, it's a goal. You can bend in a free kick, it's all a goal. The ends only justify the means. So once we talk about defensive football, Mourinho made a statement many years back. I can't be exact with his word, but what he meant by what he was trying to say was, he said, as far as he is concerned, control or dominance in football is not only when you have the ball and you're passing it around. He said dominance is
Yeah,
also when he sits back and allow you to have the ball. He said, as far as he's concerned, he's dictating what he wants you to do. He has chose to sat back and you get the ball, you pass it around. He said he is dominating as far as he's concerned because that is what he wants you to do. That is his style, that is his system. But those are professionals. We are laymen and we watch these styles and we believe our Mourinho has sat back, is a poor coach, is this and that. There are a lot of stereotypes flying around. But these coaches are professionals. They've gone through numerous training, numerous certifications, and there are many ways to go about it. As long as more recently, Conceição said his tiki-taka is putting the ball in the back of the net. That is his means to getting what he wants. You understand? So I believe we should go away from it. The knowledge is now more readily, you understand? It is very available. It is now very poor to say that one coach is defensive, one coach is ultra attacking. No, it is tactics. There are a lot of tactics in football. There are a lot of, as long as you're getting the job done, which is to score and win, you are doing your job. You are doing very well. But more recently,
Also,
come in.
oh, sorry. I just sorry for cutting you short. I just want to say also because I think that football is mainly about two things: score, defend. If you cannot score, you must know how to defend. Basically, the team that wins a game is the team that scores the most and concedes the least. So there are two areas to football. It's just that fans these days have been programmed to focus on the attacking side, forgetting that even the team that plays attack has its own mechanisms for defending. A Guardiola side, for example, its system for defending is to keep the ball. So by keeping the ball, you're actually defending because you cannot score against me if you do not have the ball. But a defensive coach like Mourinho or say Simeone or
Simeone.
Max Allegri prefers to let you have the ball in areas that they believe that you would not hurt them and wait for you to make mistakes so that they can capitalize on it. So there are different styles of football. The most important thing is whichever style that you choose, do you know how to play that style properly? Are you getting the most out of that style? So if you are doing that, then I don't see any reason why anyone should be upset or should worry about style of football.
So to continue from where I
Finally, to
stopped,
wrap,
sorry, something. So one thing people are failing to understand is that how sure are you that the Guardiola way is the best way to play football? Because aside from Guardiola, who else has showed that level of dominance with that same style? You understand? Why are you telling me
I
a coach?
can't think of any.
Are you telling me a coach who is more defensive with the post that Guardiola has? Are you telling me they can't create a success with their own kind of? Conte is someone who has shown consistent results with his style. He is not someone who goes tiki-taka way, you understand? So imagine in a system where he has the backing and finances of the Guardiola, are you telling me he can't create his empire? And outside the Messi factor that Guardiola had with Barcelona, he's finding out to replicate that same level of success with tiki-taka. The kind he had
He has won the championship with Man City.
the kind he had with Barcelona. He's found it out to replicate that anywhere. So we can also say that any other coach with resource and finance like the one Guardiola has can actually create the same level of success with their system. There is never a way to do the same thing. There are numerous ways to go about it as long as you are getting the job done. So it doesn't always have to be tiki-taka.
Okay. Finally, just a question to two of you. Just tell me your favorite coaches, old school and new school. Your favorite coaches, old school and new school. When I say new school, I mean let's say from early 2000s to now. And if you have anybody from the old school, let us know.
Well, I don't particularly attach myself to any coaches anymore, but I used to be a huge fan of Marcello Lippi. So if I'm to say old school, I'll say Marcello Lippi. For the
Okay.
new school, new school. And the reason I like Marcello Lippi is because I was an Italy fan and obviously got the World Cup home. And given everything is done, because I know that when I say Marcello Lippi, people will look at me and say Inter Milan fan. Why are you saying Marcello Lippi? But obviously because
Thank
of
you
what
for
he did
explaining.
basically. But for the new school, like you said, most of these new coaches are robotic. It's hard to pick anyone, but I think I like Xabi Alonso a lot. I like his system. I like the way he plays. So I would say maybe Xabi Alonso and Simone Inzaghi, obviously. But Simone Inzaghi, if I was to pick one of them, I'd say Xabi. But Simone Inzaghi still.
Ahmed, quickly.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, old school, I would say Carlo Ancelotti is someone who is still getting the job done in current times. Given where we are coming from, one of the Champions League in the year 2003, he did that again in the year 2007. He was someone I refer to a lot. I would say Carlo Ancelotti, old school. New school, I might get angst for saying this, but I respect Simon Inzaghi a lot of Inter Milan. He's someone who has made Inter what they are today. I would not lie to you. When Conte left Inter Milan, I felt like where would Inter get the sort of replacements that would get them back on track? And Simon Inzaghi fits in like fish in the river. Man, he has done wonderfully well for Inter Milan. What he's managed to do with their limited resources, and yeah, I must say he has good backing in Marotta and all, but nevertheless, he's done a very wonderful job with Inter Milan. So I would not look at the
Okay.
Guardiola who has enough funds.
Making leave Guardiola
People don't like
now. A wife making leave.
Purely
You can
fire.
stop.
He has finally.
You
He's literally on fire now.
can stop.
They are
You can
showing him.
stop.
They
You
are
can
showing him
stop.
Shege in Saudi
You
Arabia.
want to annoy me now. You want to annoy me now. Stop. Okay, so we have Marcelo Lippi and Xabi Alonso. We have Ancelotti and Simone Inzaghi. Personally, I will reserve my answer to the next episode as the host. In the next episode, I will tell the fans my old school coach and my new school coach. At this point, I would like to say we've come to the end of the podcast. I say thank you for staying with us. It's been fun with you, my brothers, discussing football. By God's grace, this episode will be edited, cleaned up, and posted as soon as possible for your consumption, our viewers. Follow us on all the platforms, like I said earlier, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Spotify. This podcast will also be on Spotify. Thank you for your time. Good night, my wonderful brother. It's always good to have you. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.